Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb.
And I'm Dad.
And we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad, what's up?
Not much, Swebb. There was a lot of action, and there's going to be a lot more action coming.
So not much, but there's a lot of action. So actually there is much.
It's just the usual, Swebb. There's always action going on.
There's always action. It's just another day for you.
You just go from one sport to another. There's always action.
Another day in the neighborhood for you.
Yep.
Well, we got to spend some time together last week. What have you been up to?
I flew out of New York on Sunday. I spent 2 days in South Carolina, and I got up at 1 o'clock Wednesday morning, and we drove down to Florida, and I'm in Florida until Saturday.
Okay, you're in Florida. You skipped over the part that we had a family wedding last week.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's right.
we spent a lot of time with family last week. You and I spent a lot of time together. I actually got you on the dance floor.
Oh, please.
You're no fun at weddings.
Yes, I am.
You kind of just sit there.
I get a nice seat. I get a plate of food. Then I get
and
another
you
plate
look
of
at your
food.
phone.
And I look at my phone.
Extremely engaging.
Do you have evidence of any of that?
Yes, I do. And everyone who follows me on Instagram saw it. And everyone who follows us on Instagram saw your dance moves. Those need work. Where'd you learn those? You learned those in the Bronx?
No. I don't dance, Swebb.
Oh, you picked those up in the suburbs after you left the Bronx, huh?
Right? No, I never was a dancer.
Wow, we need to do some work.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so let's talk about the action that's going on. We're talking about two things today. Baseball season has started.
Yes, it has.
And UNC has named a new head coach.
Yes, they have.
So what do you want to start with first?
Let's talk about baseball.
All right, let's talk baseball. The Yankees are 8-2. We're recording on what is today, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
We're recording on a Wednesday night. They play Oakland tonight. They also play them tomorrow, and then they head to Tampa. They are on fire. They have the second best record in MLB. Their pitchers have started the season hot. They have come out to play because they are second in the league in ERA with a 2.42 ERA as a collective pitching staff, and they just gave up a few runs last night. Or no, 2 nights ago in the game against, who was it over the weekend?
Miami on Sunday.
Miami. But before that, they had hardly given up any runs. And so they've given up 24 earned runs. They've held opponents to a 199 batting average. Dad, what are your thoughts on the Yankees so far?
They're doing good. And if you remember, when the last season ended, I told you they weren't going to spend much money because they had a lot of young players. They made a few big trades at the trade deadline last July, and they kind of rebuilt their bullpen, and they played with a lot of young players, position players, and pitchers. And you just got to give these guys a chance to develop. And guess what? They're starting to develop. You're starting to see the fruits of that. And what they did, they copied the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers had about 10 starting pitchers last year. And on and off, some of them were on the disabled list. They were hurt. And then they bring up other guys, and they put other guys in rotation. And when all said and done, when they got to the World Series, their bullpen kind of faltered out, and they had to start using some of those starting pitchers in their bullpen to close out games, if you remember. And that's what the Yankees have done. They went to spring training. They got 10 starting pitchers. They're starting the season with 3 guys, Cole, Rodon, and Clark Schmidt, on the disabled list. Those guys will come as the season progresses. And they have 2 young pitchers still in the minor leagues that were kind of lights out during spring training. And they have another young pitcher in Double-A.
Okay, before we go into the minors, because that's not as important right now, talking about Double-A baseball a week and a half into the season, their current rotation, that is playing currently. We've got Max Fried, who has come out the gates with an extremely dominant 3 showings, even though his last start against the Marlins he struggled a little bit, but left the game in a winning position before the bullpen blew that game. Cam Schlittler has been absolutely dominant, and you're getting very effective starts from Warren. He's going to go 5 innings or so in his first 2 starts, but still very effective.
Right. And Heel hasn't pitched, and Weathers hasn't pitched. He pitched okay in one game, and the other game he didn't pitch well.
And now the Yankees had started with Luis Heel, former Rookie of the Year, down in the minors because of the scheduling of that first week of the season. The Yankees had like random off days in there.
The first 2 weeks.
It allowed for them to go with only 4 starters because of those off days. So now Luis Heel will come back. He had been injured a large portion of last season, but now he'll enter this rotation, and you still have 3 legitimate starters, including 1 former Cy Young Award winner, and Carlos Rodon had his best season as a Yankee last year on the DL.
Yep. But he should be back within a month. Cole should be back in about a month. And we have 2 young pitchers down there. If there's an emergency, you can bring them up at any time. One of them, Rodriguez, pitched very well in the WBC for Puerto Rico.
And the bullpen has been pretty solid, despite that game against Miami. The bullpen has been solid as well.
Yep. And they're starting to hit a little bit. They're still not hitting as much as they...
The pitchers kept them in it in the series against San Francisco. They gave up, I think, 1 run in a 3-game series. But the bats are starting to come alive. One of the things that I'm also liking, although they're not hitting a ton yet collectively as a lineup, they are making productive outs, moving runners along, sacrifice flies, even when they're not. Grisham has not really started off that hot from a hitting perspective, but he's gotten on base with a bunch of walks to start the season. So they're doing a lot of the little things. They're not relying on the strikeouts or homers, which was typically a Yankee thing over the past 5-6 years. They are doing a lot of those little things at the plate that they haven't done previously.
Yep. They did the right thing by not just making all kinds of random trades and giving free agents $40-50 million. Enough's enough. There comes a time where you have to start developing your own players. And if you want to keep them when they become free agents, that's fine. But you can't just keep shopping and buying players up. It doesn't work.
That was really the model for the Yankees back in the 90s. And then in the 2000s, they started spending money on a bunch of free agents.
Wait. When was the model?
In the 90s, they developed players: Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettitte, Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada. Some of the best players in their history. It was a mixture of players that they developed and key free agent signings and trades. Then in 2000, they broke the bank. I think we all got used to that. Then we start to see now in the 2020s, we start to see the Dodgers kind of skirt the system with the way that they're able to pay players. But yes, you're right. Thus far, a week and a half into the season, it looks like they've made the right moves, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself because last year the Yankees started off hot. They were clearing away the best team in the majors, and then they inevitably, the past 2 seasons, have gotten into a slump at around June, July. Then they get hot again in late August. Aaron Judge goes on a tear in September, really all season, but particularly in September, puts them back in position to win the AL East, and they end up kind of pooping out of the playoffs in the ALDS, ALCS. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I do like what I'm seeing. And guess what? It's nice to have baseball back, especially when it's been a tough fall, winter, and spring for us.
You know what I like about baseball? It's every day. You don't have to
every
wait
day,
a week.
There's 162 games.
Right. It's just about every day. at the very least, it's 6 days a week, and the next game is right around the corner. Just remember, yeah, they started off hot, but they also had the best record in the American League last year. Okay, and in the playoffs, their pitching shorted out. That's why they built up more of a pitching staff this year.
I'm more concerned about the playoffs than I am about the regular season. This is a long season. I know that there are going to be highs and lows, but I'm not going to get too ahead of myself a week and a half into the season.
There's a lot of good teams in the American League. Don't count your chickens before they. You got to go through a lot of good teams because a lot of teams improved their roster.
We'll check back in
see.
September, October.
And
but right now, I like what I see.
Yeah, I like what I see too. And the Mets, they started off slow, and they've started to win some games, and they're pretty hot right now.
Well, we're a week and a half in. Every team has played about 10 or 11 games. Like, what is hot? What is cold? The Yankees are off to a good start because their pitchers are legitimately dominating opposing lineup. So, yes, they look very good. I like what I see. It looks like everyone's having fun out there. It looks like good team chemistry, but it's a long season.
Yes, it is.
And you're going to be going out to
I'm going
the
to see
game on.
I'm going to see the Yankees Friday night in Tampa.
Which means that's a loss. So, judging by the way the team performs when you're in attendance, that means that they're going to lose.
I've seen them win in that ballpark before.
Okay.
I've seen them win in that ballpark.
As long as you're going in April as opposed to August, September, I'm fine. All right, let's talk about the other big news. UNC names their new head coach, Michael Malone. NBA champion in 2023, has never coached a day in college basketball. A little bit of a surprise hire by...
Never coached a day as a head coach in college basketball.
Yes, as a head coach, but has been a long time NBA coach, both as an assistant and also as the head coach of the Denver Nuggets, where he won the championship, also coached the Sacramento Kings, had been fired by the Nuggets last season and hadn't been coaching. I'm not necessarily sure that was the right decision to fire the only coach that's ever helped you win an NBA championship.
And developed all that talent that helped them win.
Developed all that talent. Denver has become a powerhouse over the past couple of years in the NBA. But this is an interesting hire for UNC. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, my initial thoughts, all the names that were rumored the last few weeks, this is why you can't believe anything. They mentioned everybody. I think I was even mentioned as a possibility.
No. They mentioned everybody who was coaching in the Final Four. You weren't even close to that.
Well, they mentioned Billy Donovan.
Yeah, and he's been to the Final Four and has won the whole thing before.
Right.
It was starting to feel a little bit like the Knicks coaching process last year when they ended up with Mike Brown. They fired Tom Thibodeau, and next thing you know, all of these head coaches that names were being brought up ended up extending for massive contracts and using it as leverage. And that seemed to be the case when the news about Tommy Lloyd, the head coach of Arizona, came out, and then Dusty May just won a national championship with Michigan. But it seemed like there were a lot of guys that were using it for leverage. And then all of a sudden, Michael Malone is announced as the head coach, which was not a name that had previously been in the mix over the past 2 weeks.
No. A lot of these guys, a lot of these present college coaches that are coaching in other places looked at the North Carolina situation and they said, wait, Hubert Davis, you just fired him. He won 20 games 5 years in a row. He got to the national championship game his first year. Okay, he got knocked out of the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. And he's in the family. He's in the Carolina family. He's been in the Carolina family for 50 years, his whole life, because his uncle was a superstar there, okay? And you fired him? You know what? So what do you expect from me if I come there? Oh, you got to win the national championship. Oh, that's okay. I'll stay over here in Arizona, and I'll make $8-10 million a year. And if I get to the Final Four and I get blown out by 20 points, I'll still have my job, and nobody's going to be called for my head.
Well, I think we didn't get to
the expectations at Carolina are very, high
As
for a
they
coach.
should be. They're one of the historic programs in college basketball. And we didn't get to talk about UNC firing Hubert Davis on camera. But one of the things that I had said, each year, Carolina did not have an identity. He comes in, he has Roy Williams, old players in that first year, right? Gets to the national championship game, a game that they shouldn't have even been in because they were like an 8 seed and had, not really had a dominant showing. Then the next year, they're the number 1 team in the country, and they don't even make the tournament. The last 2 years, they were bounced out in the round of 64. I think one of the big things for Carolina is that you never knew what you were going to get from year to year with this roster. There was no true identity. Last year, they had no big men, and they had a bunch of good guards. This year, they had great big men, and they had guards that, were serviceable at times and ended up being a bit of their demise towards the end of the season, particularly with the injury of Caleb Wilson, which obviously those are things you can't predict. But the identity had been lost, and there was no real discipline. They not only did they lose in the round of 64 during the NCAA tournament, they blew a 19-point lead in that game. The coaching wasn't where it needed to be. At the end of a season, when you've played 30 games, you're no longer a freshman. If you're a freshman on the website, you're not really a freshman in experience. And so the development just didn't seem like it was there for enough of the players on the roster, and that was something that was happening every season.
It wasn't there. Look at Cadeau. He was he played
Elliot
for
Cadeau.
Yeah, he was. Carolina gets him. He's a 5-star recruit, top 15 recruit 2 years ago. He plays for them for 2 years. He was up and down, didn't shoot the ball well, a lot of turnovers, some flashy plays, showed he had a lot of talent, but didn't put it all together. He transfers out, goes to Michigan, just won the MVP in the Final Four for the national championship for Michigan.
And he would have been the difference maker on the Carolina team.
If he was
this
on
year
this
because,
Carolina team
yes,
with the big men they have now, who knows where they would have gone.
Right. He was more of a pass-first guard in his first 2 years at Carolina, and he didn't really have enough players to pass the ball to. So his game on this roster from this past season Carolina could have gone really far, even with the injury to Caleb Wilson, because that was really their downfall at the end of the season, having to use Derek Dixon, freshman, who's really a 2 guard, had to play the 1. And to be honest, they weren't really using the transfer portal. They weren't getting the most out of the transfer. Like some of these, Michigan is a team full of players that were all from the transfer portal. Every single starter on that national championship winning team this past week is a transfer from another school. A lot of UNC's pickups have really, with the exception of Visser this past year, and I think Jaron Stevenson really played his way to being
good.
a very effective guy on the roster.
And the guy from Oklahoma that they got 4 years ago.
Yes. Brady Manick. And, they had the guy
and the kid from Notre Dame.
Yeah, Cormac.
He's on the Milwaukee Bucks now, lighting it up.
Well, what I was going to say is they had 1 or 2 guys that worked, but they also had a lot of guys that we had high expectations for that didn't reach those expectations. And with those high expectations came some good money to them, and they didn't reach those expectations.
They had one, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to embarrass the kid, but they had one transfer that was on this roster this year that was making $2 million.
Well, if you watch the game, you know.
And by the end of the season, he was playing. He was playing 2 minutes a game.
Right.
Okay.
So, listen, I'm excited about this hire. Having watched the press conference and the highlights, obviously he's a tremendous coach. He won the NBA championship. That doesn't happen often. I have not seen one of those as a Knicks fan in my lifetime.
His father was an assistant coach with the Knicks, was an assistant coach with the Detroit Pistons when they were winning championships. He comes along. He's born to be a coach, okay? And he's from New York City.
He's from Queens.
That's New York City.
Yes, he sounds like he's from, he sounds like he's from Queens.
Okay.
My kind of guy.
Right. Yeah, I love those Queens guys.
He's not messing around. He's here to do work.
He's not messing around. And if you don't, I saw the way he handled guys making 30, 40, and $50 million with Denver. He didn't mess around with them. What do you think he's going to do with these kids? He's not fooling around. I watched his whole press conference last night. This guy is here to win. And by the way, his daughter is on the volleyball team at Carolina.
Yeah, I mentioned that to you. His daughter is a sophomore on the volleyball team. So this past year, he has been coming to Chapel Hill to watch his daughter play, had gone to some UNC practices, had, watched a number of games, had become very familiar with the program. So although he's not a UNC guy per se, he's kind of like an adopted father because his daughter plays at UNC and he's very familiar with the culture. And he also coached a lot of these guys and knows a lot of the guys from UNC that ended up playing in the pros. So that is, I've listened to a number of
UNC guys he coached when they were in the pros.
I've listened to a number of different former players saying, like, he knows his stuff. He knows his X's and O's. He was a great coach, whether they had him as an assistant or whether they played for him as a head coach. He knows his stuff, and he comes with rave reviews. I think he'll also bring a different perspective in terms of college basketball and college sports in general has changed. And he's bringing a level of, like, a pro eye to campus now and to the team and how things should run. And I think that just given the way that players are now getting paid, it's almost like a professional game, right? So he'll be able to not only manage egos and emotions that teenage boys will have, but I'm sure he's going to continue to have the former Carolina players come in. I'm sure he'll have some of his other players that he's coached. It would be great to have like a could you imagine Nikola Jokic coming to Chapel Hill?
He's the best player in the world.
Right. And listen, I watched the Final Four. I watched teams like Illinois that were full of Europeans. Europeans know how to play the game. So if he's able to uncover some talent in Europe, the fundamentals are unmatched.
He has a pipeline into Europe. He has a pipeline. He has tons of connections in Europe, especially in Serbia and some of those countries. Let me tell you something. This guy's not fooling around, okay? He's here to win games. And he's not that young. He's a young guy. He's 54
like 54
years old. Right.
And in the 90s, early 2000s, UNC had guys who were legitimate superstars in the NBA. That has kind of fallen off over the past 10 years, I would say. There have been guys who are good NBA players. There have been guys who have been effective, who've kind of bounced around from team to team.
Let me tell you why.
UNC used to have lottery picks that actually made a difference in the league. So I think having a former NBA coach and an NBA championship winning coach could bring back some of that star power to Chapel Hill.
I'll tell you why. They haven't gone outside of the Carolina family since the 50s. And they've kept everything the same. And when you have a business, an organization, a team, if you never bring anybody in from the outside to get different perspectives on stuff, and you just stick to the way, well, this is how we always did it. This is how we always did it. This is how we always did it. Dean Smith is one of the best coaches I've ever seen. But he retired in 1997, and he coached from 61 to 1997, 36 years. You can't do things the same way that you did it back in those days now. It's different. So you've got to bring in some 5-star recruits, but not a lot of them.
You've got to evolve.
You got to evolve, but you got to do things differently and change with the times. If you just keep saying this is how we always did it, you don't want to change anything.
That's what evolve means.
Oh, that's what it means?
Yeah. Change with the times.
You've got to change with the times. You've got to change. I'm not saying just throw away everything you did before, but you've got to add some different stuff. And the best way to do that is bring in assistant coaches from other programs. When Hubert Davis got the job, he threw out all the assistant coaches that Roy Williams had from his days in Kansas, and he just had Carolina guys. Carolina guys that I saw play in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. So it was just all Carolina guys doing the same stuff that Dean Smith did 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. That doesn't work. They didn't get a fresh perspective. So now, Malone, he's going to keep 2 Carolina guys.
Well, it looks like he's going after, and I think the deal isn't final yet, but the assistant coach from Arkansas, he's put out an offer to him to be the associate head coach. That guy has been a great recruiter for Arkansas.
And for Kentucky.
Well, yes.
With Calipari. Okay.
Yeah,
so
he's
he knows how to
Calipari's
get
guy.
He knows how to get the high 5-star recruits. Okay? That's what you need. You need 2 or 3 of those a year.
And we'll see who remains from the current roster. As far as I'm concerned, there's only a handful of guys that I want to see stay. Veister, obviously, Derek Dixon, all of the guys that entered the transfer portal because the portal opened yesterday, essentially are doing that just to keep their options open should it not really work out for them. They've all announced that they're open to coming back to UNC. I don't think that there are many that have, from the UNC roster, that have entered the transfer portal that have enough leverage to be able to leverage it for more money. It's more just like, do you get along with the coach? Do you like the coach or not? Like, that's going to be the decision here.
As of 24 hours ago, there were over 1,000 players in the portal.
And there's about 2,900 or so. I think 2,000. No, I think there's about 2,000 college basketball players in the country. So I think half of them are in the transfer portal, which is really a shame. I think if they went back to, I'm fine with guys transferring, but if they went back to you had to sit out a year, there would be less guys moving from team to school to school. So lots of big news, lots of action. Dad, what are you most excited for the rest of the week, this upcoming weekend?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing my first baseball game on Friday night. Yankees in Tampa. Oh, and they rebuilt the roof on that stadium down there because it got...
I've never heard anyone who's interested in going to Tropicana Field and with a new roof. They should have just torn down the place and started all over.
Well, they want to get a new stadium.
And hopefully the Yankees don't stink up the joint, because that seems to be the case for every game with every sport and every team that you root for when you watch them in person.
We'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted, Swebb.
And I'm looking forward to just a weekend. Like, we had Easter, we had some family life events, we had a lot of excitement. I'm looking forward to just the weather. It's supposed to be in the 60s here in New York this weekend. I've been trying to go for my runs to see the flowers blooming. There's certain parts of Central Park where the flowers are blooming. So I'm going to go out every morning to see, if I could see everything before it only lasts for about a week. But I'm looking forward to some spring weather here in New York. I'm probably going to do some things around New York City this weekend. And it's just, catch baseball. Like, now we're into a little bit of a groove. March Madness is over. Now it's just baseball until we start talking. And the NBA playoffs are in a week. So,
please.
Lots of excitement. But we'll talk about the Knicks next week.
Yeah, let's save that.
All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode of Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X and TikTok, and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. We will see you next week.
So long.
Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.